250 next week.
Oh, yo, and welcome back to Creeps and Crimes
Podcast.
I'm Taylar.
I'm Morgan. Happy Thursday and happy episode 249.
249. You know, like when you drink like a sweet drink, and by that I mean like a sweet tea, a soda, like too early in the day, and for the rest of the entire day you have that sweet dried tongue taste in your mouth.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's making me crazy today. I have brushed my teeth maybe 500 times. I have put mouthwash. It's just like it'll go away for a little bit, but then it like counteracts with the sweetness of the mint and the toothpaste. This happens like all the time to me, and I'm sure it's because you get dry tongue when you take Adderall. So like
that'll do it.
It's just like wringing it out like a sponge.
Yeah.
Rough.
That is rough.
What are you the CEO of?
CEO
of dry cleaning?
Oh, guys. We have so much to tell you, honestly. We saw Susan. Taylar had her birthday party.
Oh, yeah. My birthday week was amazing. I had the best time. You'll learn. We'll send out the like vlogs and stuff for Susan on Patreon first, of course. And then we'll have like a few other things that'll go out on socials for you guys. But we had so much fun hanging out with Susan and Ellen.
So fun.
So fun. But tell them what you're the CEO of.
I am the CEO of, guest spot cleaning. I get this text from my lovely husband while I was at work today, and it's like, well, our couch is fucked, some other choice words, and a picture. One thing we know about Ollie is that he likes to get on the counter. So we remove all food items from the counter. Well, never in a million years, guys, did I think that he would pick one of those little boxes of the 4-pack of the fucking food coloring. The red, yellow, blue, green.
Yep.
He did. And he took it, carried his little happy ass right on over to the couch.
He walked over the tile, the hardwood, the rugs,
the $30 fucking rug that he could have picked,
the old black chairs from the old studio.
Walked right over those. The shitty bed, the $40 comforter in the guest room that he always lays in,
that he loves to lay in.
No, he went right to our couch,
the brand new white one,
our ottoman to be exact, the extra large oversized ottoman, and he went to town. He went to town on this food coloring, and of course, he was so kind to pick the lightest colors, yellow and green, for the 10-year-old rug that was in our literal college apartment.
Yep.
And he decided to pick the darkest colors for the ottoman. Red and blue. My guy is a patriot. What can I say? He's very patriotic.
He said, I heard it was 4th of July.
He said, 'tis the fucking season.
It's July
Independence
1st.
Day. Thank you,
1776.
USA.
Yeah.
Is what he said. And so I ordered this shit off Amazon. I went to TikTok immediately. I was like, ink spot remover, couch, carpet, whatever. I don't care. Give me it. And it got delivered like right when I got home.
Amazing.
And so the Dawn dish soap did not. It didn't do anything. I have to show you this second picture.
Did you use baking soda?
Well, Aaron did it because I was like, you have to do something. You can't let it sit there. So you have to do something to help me out here. So he just did like Dawn power wash and water, and it just merged it into a beautiful purple color.
Honestly, that looks like beautiful tie-dye.
Beautiful tie-dye couch.
But I know he did it like a man, which is not how the way a woman would do it.
I think he made it worse.
Yeah.
And so anyway, this stuff like definitely got it up, but it's still like a very hint of like blue. And I didn't even attempt the rug because honestly, I'm probably just...
Was that thunder?
It's supposed to storm at like 7, 8. Yeah.
Oh, I need to tell Logan to get my new umbrellas and bring them in.
Yeah. And I didn't worry about the rug at all because I could turn that, hide it under the couch. I don't care. I literally don't care. I mean, I'll throw it away. It was just honestly like a good place setter that Taylar left at the house, and I was like, cool.
The thing is literally so old.
It's got like weed in it.
Yeah.
Cat hair, dog vomit, cat shit, dog shit.
So
like,
much hair. There's so much
probably
DNA
human
on that
shit,
thing.
human pee, human throw up. Who knows? Honestly, like we went through it in college. Okay, so I'm not worried about that. But my fucking couch. So anyway, I'm the CEO of cleaning, although I wouldn't claim to be the CEO quite yet. I will keep you guys posted on the stain.
Well, she'll be Stain Master CEO by next week.
Yes, by next week, because I'm gonna add it.
Oh yeah, well
I wanted to do this, and then thank God my mom brought the green
I
green
forgot.
Machine.
Thank God.
So I'm gonna get some stuff for that because I still don't have solution, and then I'm gonna spot treat this a little bit more, and then I'm going ham on it.
I was trying to think. There was something that just came to mind that I was thinking about. You could pop a Tide Pod on it, or you could do shit.
Like OxyClean?
Yeah, like
I could
OxyClean.
bleach it, literally. I could.
Yeah, but don't bleach it because you don't know what that fabric underneath is gonna like come up as a. There was something I literally just thought of. It'll come to me eventually. I don't know what it's gonna be.
What are you the CEO of?
I am the CEO of Amazon because I found out that Knoxville now can do like same day.
Oh yeah, unlocked.
I've been fucking it up, and it's just cheaper than even doing like Uber Eats or DoorDash to get you something that you need.
It really is.
It really is. Like I ran out of my vitamins, and I don't do the subscribe thing on Amazon, which I should do, but like there's sometimes months I forget to take the vitamins for a whole fucking month,
right?
And then there's other months where I take it every day plus some, even on the weekends.
Subscribe and save. It's a scam.
It is a scam. And like when I do subscribe and save for like anything, I end up being like having I went to Costco by the end of it because I'm like, I can't keep up. I can't be consistent for shit with anything. So anyways, I'm the CEO of that. But I wrote something down last night or the last 2 nights I've written just like random things down. Oh, I'm CEO of Desperate Housewives.
Wait, I started that like 2 weeks ago.
Shut up. Me too. What season are you?
Oh, I'm still on 1, but I'm like episode 8.
Oh, I think I'm probably 14 now.
And this is so funny because I've actually tried to restart this so many times. And I was like, I'm doing it.
I'm just going to fucking force myself to do it.
Look at us.
No, look at us. That's crazy. Wait, we should do like a whole recap thing on like a rewatch on Patreon. That'd be really fun.
It's so good. It's such a classic.
It's such a classic. But what's so funny is like watching it now as an adult because I watch it with my mom a little bit.
Yeah.
There was like certain things that she wouldn't let me watch, but like, you know, whatever.
I just never knew what was going on, but I would sit down and watch it.
I would sit down and watch it all the time.
I knew the storyline.
Yeah, but like there's so many things that went over my head that like now I'm like, oh my God, like what? Like there's this whole like random storyline about what's her name? Susan, redhead girl with the twirls at the end? No, that's not Susan. Susan's brown head with a single mom.
No, Susan's like after Mike.
What is her name? Lynette's
Bree.
blonde. Bree. She is in the NRA.
Yeah.
And I was like, when I was younger, I had no idea what that meant. Yeah. And now I was like, wow, there's this whole side to her that like I see in such different light as an adult now because I understand.
Maybe I'm not that far. Well, no, I am that far yet. I remember seeing that.
Yeah.
But I just got to Carlos's mom getting hit by the car and it being Bree's son.
Oh my God.
And then
shit's even crazier. When I watched that episode, I couldn't stop myself from watching. So I stuck it. I brought my like phone in the shower and stuck it on the tile. And I was watching TV in the shower. I do not do that. Like I listen to podcasts in the showers and that's it. And I told Logan, I was like, I finished Gilmore Girls and I haven't found a show since then. Like me show that I'm not waiting on you. Like you can watch if you want, but like anything. And I said, but that's going to be Desperate Housewives for me. And he was like, oh, you want to fucking watch this? Then the other night, he's like, wait. Hold on. Who is Dana? Who is Zachary? Whose husband is that? And so I gave him the rundown. He got mad at me last night because he heard me watching it in the shower. And he was like, are you watching that without me? Like we left on a big cliffhanger last night. And he's like actually obsessed with it. And he told my mom when I was on the phone with her, he's like, it's actually really good. But
it's a
great show. It's a great show. But anyways, the thing that I thought of, I've got some crazy fucking things that I've written down. Let me read this to you. Desperate Housewives, what would it look like if it was written in 2025? Because, you know, like there's so many things that are like outdated.
Oh, yeah.
Like incredibly outdated, even just about like the way that their lives are. And like one thing that's outdated is the fact that it's a lot harder to have a single income to provide for like the families of this magnitude that they have and like afford the lifestyles that all these women have.
Yeah, well, imagine the social media.
Yes, aspect of it. And like, you know,
what's her name would be an influencer. Not Gloria. What's her name?
Gloria. Danielle? Gabrielle.
Gabrielle.
Yeah, exactly. Like just stuff like that. And I was thinking, it's like nostalgic watching it like that. Yeah. Anyways, that was the first thing I wrote down. Then I wrote this, which we'll save for Piping Hot Goss, I'm sure this week or next week. Where will humans find the meaning or purpose of their life if automation takes over and a universal income comes out? We'll talk about that at a later date.
Okay.
That was in deep thought.
I have something to say. I bought this dress off of Pepper Mayo. Have you ever ordered anything off Pepper Mayo?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Your wedding dress? Bridesmaid dress I wore?
So it's like a pretty reputable site, right? And
really
I got a wedding guest dress next weekend. I was trying to show Aaron it. Well, of course, on the email, you know how you can never click the link? It's like, thanks for the confirmation. And it's like a picture of the girl like hunched over.
Yes.
So I Google searched it. And it's like Pepper Mayo. I paid $100, including shipping. So it was a $90 dress. Right next to it, Shein, $22.
You're shitting me.
The same dress, same model.
It's not like you're going to get it as fast, though.
I'm like, what the actual fuck, Pepper Mayo?
That's
I was
crazy.
so mad.
Yeah, that's
I was
insane.
about to email them and be like, why is
I want my fucking money
why
back.
is your dress on Shein for
Do they price match?
25 or 75% cheaper than what I paid for?
Yep.
Because I paid $100.
All those, what's that, Moo or whatever, show me your Moo, like all those things are the exact same.
And
you
like I just typed in the name and I'm like, so let me show you it because it is so really cute. Annoying. But like, and I do see people like I've seen influencers where they'll order the same dress off Pepper Mayo and Shein, and then they compare the quality, and it is different. Shein just uses the pictures and like matches the dress. However, I'm just whatever. I'm so mad about it. It's just a little blue.
That is so pretty.
Yeah, I think so too.
I love the
90
blue.
On Pepper Mayo, 26 on Shein.
That's
21
bullshit.
on Amazon.
Oh, now
19 on Shein.
That'll make a bitch lose it.
Just a ridiculous market.
Anything that a woman has to use, tampons.
You know, oh, speaking of tampons, I only brought like 5 to work. I needed one today. So I went to the hospital gift shop.
Right.
A healthcare facility.
Yep.
The only person that's buying a tampon in the hospital gift shop is an employee who is on their period. $1 for a cardboard tampon. An entire dollar for one singular Tampax cardboard tampon.
Oh, I'd throw up over a cardboard
I checked
tampon.
out and I said, I'm sorry. I said $1. And she was like, oh, well, your employee discount's 93 cents. I'm like, oh.
Wow,
yes,
that's it.
First off, I feel like healthcare
you can get that in the thing for 50 cents.
Like employers in general, that should be like a supplied product.
It should
to
just
your
be
employees.
in your like employee bathroom,
just like fucking toilet paper.
Right, like
that's how I feel about that.
Me too.
I think it should be in a public place,
especially
everywhere.
if it's a fucking cardboard one. Like, what's that cost to make?
It is 20 cents. You can sold that to me.
5 cents.
I could see if we opened up a Playtex Sport.
Yeah.
And you're giving me a nice one. I'll pay $1 for it.
I will pay $1
I'm
desperate
time, desperate measures. But like, I was so taken aback. I was like,
torn up. I'd have been torn
for cardboard?
For cardboard? For cardboard?
You go put this in your vagina, okay?
Oh my God. The thought of cardboard going in my vagina.
So anyway,
really gets
that
me.
was that. Even if you get a cardboard out of the spinny thing, it's 25 cents.
Yeah, it's like 50 cents, 25 cents.
$1
50 cents for the nice ones, not the
$1
cardboard.
is a shame. Like, you should be ashamed of yourself. Period.
You really should.
That's disgusting.
I can't believe they don't have the 50-cent little machines in the bathroom.
I can't believe it's not free, actually.
Yeah, actually, better yet.
Majority
of
healthcare
that
workers are women.
Insane. Like, that's insane.
You're a healthcare facility. What do I know, though, anyway?
All right. Ready to hit 'em with this?
Yeah, if you're driving, throw that shit on cruise control.
If you got a glass, pour that shit up.
And let's get creepy. Okay, so today I am covering something called SaltAir. So before I start, though, I want you to look it up.
Okay, SaltAir.
SaltAir. It's in Salt Lake City, Utah, on the Great Salt Lake.
SaltAir, as in like air?
AIR, yeah, like air.
Utah? Oh, wow. Is this a city or am I looking at anything?
No, this is like, let me see what you have.
It says concert hall.
And then go to images.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
It is technically a concert hall now. Spoiler alert.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Like old, are they historical pictures?
Yeah, these?
Yeah, on the lake. Isn't that crazy?
Fuck?
Okay, so there is this, if you looked it up, you saw that there is a strange building and it's near the edge of the Great Salt Lake in Salt Lake City, Utah. It looks like it was plucked from another time, and you can tell that once it was very clearly full of a lot of life, but now it stands empty. This is SaltAir, or rather what's left of SaltAir. And if you believe some locals, SaltAir isn't just abandoned, it's actually cursed. But even before SaltAir, the land around the Great Salt Lake was home to native peoples, mainly the Goshutes, and Ute tribes. These groups lived here for generations. They hunted, gathered food, and moved with the seasons. They knew the lake well. It was a beautiful lake, but also it's a very harsh lake because it's a salt lake. It's salty, it's unpredictable, and it's hard to live near for long. Some even believe that it's this place of power and something that's best left alone. So like, yes, the natives were in this area, but they viewed the salt lake more of a, like, I think, spiritual situation because they knew it wasn't fresh water. It was something different, probably something they've never seen before.
Yeah, like, why the fuck is this taste like this?
It's something they've never seen before.
Oh my God, could you imagine thinking about to get a nice drink? So of course it's going to be a
spiritual resemblance because of that.
Yeah, because it's like, what? No, really, like, why the fuck is there a salt lake here?
Yeah, why are we actually floating in this water?
Why does it taste like this?
Yeah.
You're just like so thirsty. It's like when you accidentally drink like a water bottle full of tequila or something. That like, it's horrible.
Everything changed in 1847 when the Mormons arrived. Led by Brigham Young, they were escaping religious persecution and they were looking for a fresh start. They ended up in the Salt Lake Valley, which at the time was very dry, isolated, and far away from the rest of the country. But to them, it felt like this promised land. It was a place that they could build their own communities, their own rules, their own faith-based society. We talked a lot about this with Ruby Frankie and the rise of the Mormons. Or not the rise of the Mormons, or the rise of Ruby Frankie. Just like
the rise of the Mormons.
Their beginning.
Yeah.
By the late 1800s, Salt Lake City was growing fast. And the church wanted to show the rest of the country that Mormon life wasn't just about hard work, strict rules. They wanted to prove that it could be modern, family-friendly, and even fun.
Yeah, mom talk.
So they started planning something big, and that's when their attention turned west to the Great Salt Lake. The lake itself was always a strange attraction. Generationally, hundreds of years, people were fascinated by how you could float without sinking in the salty water. It's literally like an ocean in the middle of the country.
Right.
Tourists came just to see it. Scientists studied it, and newspapers called it America's Dead Sea. The land near the lake was wide open and flat, and it was owned mostly by the railroad companies. But it wasn't perfect because of the salt water. The salt crust, or this rust, would build up on everything that was near it. Even if it was like 5 miles away, if it was still in the air was salty. And the weather itself could be rough. And because the lake has no rivers draining out of it, the shoreline was always changing. So that's another interesting fact about the lake, is that there's like no mouths like into it. The only way water goes is by evaporation.
And how does that work?
Right.
And how does that work? I see the diagram from my fourth grade science book. Yeah. But damn.
Yeah. Some years the water's really high, other years it's really far away, other years it's really low, other years it's empty. You know, it always changes, but it seemed like the perfect spot to build something new because it piqued so many people's interest. In 1893, the LDS Church teamed up with the Salt Lake and Los Angeles Railway to create a resort like no one in Utah had ever seen before, and they called it SaltAir.
SaltAir.
It was going to be this place for clean, church-approved fun, dancing, swimming, music, games, everything that you would expect from a vacation, just without the drinking or the gambling that you would find at places like Vegas or back east. They hired Richard K.A. Kledding, who was a well-known architect who also designed the Utah State Capitol building. And his design was bold. SaltAir was going to sit right over the lake, built on over 2,000 wooden posts that were driven deep into the lake bed. This building was going to have huge towers, white paint, big rounded domes that looked a little like a fairy tale castle or even like a palace from the Middle East. It cost $350,000 to build, which was a fucking fortune back then.
Yeah.
I didn't do the conversion, but I would assume over a couple million. And it went up fast. Within 6 months from start to finish, SaltAir was there.
That's not...
It opened on June 8th, 1893, and it was an instant hit. Trains brought people out from Salt Lake City every 45 minutes. Entire families came dressed in their Sunday best. They would walk the boardwalk, they'd ride their Ferris wheel, and they would float in the water.
It's like Disney World.
And they had this massive dance floor. Some people said that it was the biggest in the world, and the whole place would just like light up with these like electric neon lights at night,
fun.
Which was like a novelty to have back then. Like to have those LEDs like popping. So this dance floor was crazy. Over 100,000 visitors came in the first season alone, which was huge considering Salt Lake City's population at the time was less than half that, and that fact that it was in the middle of nowhere, and we're talking 1893.
Yeah.
Like, you're taking a train and a train only.
Did they even have trains? Like,
they did have trains. But yeah, it was a beautiful place. And for a little while, it felt like SaltAir was unstoppable. It was a fucking money pit. But under all of this glamour and success of SaltAir, there were signs of trouble because the lake was unpredictable. Like we know, the weather is harsh, and the land they built it on, it wasn't very stable. For a while, SaltAir was the place to be. Everyone would come, they'd float on the lake, they'd dance under the stars. It was peaceful, joyful, but behind the scenes, it was constantly fighting with the land itself that it stood on. The first real sign of trouble came in 1910, just 17 years after the resort opened. This huge windstorm blew in off the lake, and it was fast, it was violent, and these gusts were strong enough to tear roofs off the building. Like, this was a hurricane in the middle of Utah.
Damn.
Over 200 of the bathhouses that they had built that lined up, they were kind of like little cabins that lined up on the boardwalk where people could like go and change into their swimsuits. But there's hundreds of them. Over 200 of the bathhouses were destroyed in one night from this wind gust. And then after the storm, many of these same little cabins, if they weren't completely gone, they were smashed to pieces or just scattered across the sand, because this is also a desert. The resort fixed the damage and kept going, but things were still feeling a little bit unstable. In 1925, disaster struck again, this time even worse. On April 22nd, a fire broke out inside the main pavilion. Nobody knows exactly how it started, but that's not uncommon for fires back then. The building was made mostly of wood, and then once the flames caught, there was no stopping it. It could have been as simple as a cigar and a dry day.
Just done.
And a salty air in the salt air.
And a salty air.
And salty air in the salt air. Within hours, the entire structure burned to the ground. Everything. The dance hall, the arcade, the grand towers were gone. People were heartbroken. Some thought that this was the end for SaltAir, but once again, they rose up and SaltAir is back. They rebuilt it. The second SaltAir opened in 1926, just 1 year later after the first fire. This time they made it even bigger and even better.
And it only took you a year?
Only a year.
I'm really worried about you guys. Like,
yeah.
what?
You put those motherfuckers to work.
Yeah.
Probably illegally.
Yeah.
The new pavilion had a fresh design that had these stronger materials, a little bit more of a modern look, although it still kept its original like palace charm. There was still that massive dance floor, and now it hosted some of the biggest bands in the country. During the late 1920s and early 1930s, SaltAir saw huge crowds again. Big band leaders came through, like, I don't know these people, but I figure Taylar, Mike, Glenn Miller, Artie Shaw. No. Early 1920s. So,
yeah,
they were probably... I figured, you never know.
You never know.
The place was full of music, laughter. Everyone's on that big ass dance floor. They came in their best clothes again. The lights were just shimmering across the lake. But the Great Salt Lake, true to its name, was always changing. In the 1930s, the water level started to drop. And each year, the shoreline was pulling farther and farther away from the resort. So once, when visitors were able to walk right from the pavilion and into the water, now it was hundreds of feet away.
Oh, shit.
So to fix the problem, they built this kind of like shuttle tram or like a little train situation that would take swimmers out to where the water actually was. But at that point on, it wasn't really the same for visitors. Like, the beach was so far, it was too quiet.
Yeah.
It just felt, it was a strange feeling where they used to be able to just jump on in and float.
Yeah.
Now they're having to get bussed to it. So very shortly after that, fewer people began making this trip to SaltAir. At the same time, this was the Great Depression in the 1930s.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people out of work, and then entertainment or places or resorts like SaltAir, that's more of a luxury that most families could not afford at that time. And then after that came World War II, and then everything just slowed down again. So SaltAir wasn't completely shut down, but it was pretty quiet. By the time the war ended, things had changed, and the crowds just didn't return to the way that they used to. The buildings were starting to age a little bit, and then that roller coaster that they had once was a huge draw with the Ferris wheel and everything was falling apart. And by 1957, it had just completely collapsed.
Damn.
In 1958, the owner shut SaltAir down completely. And at that point, it seemed like the resort had kind of run out of luck. But some locals say that it was more than bad luck. They believed that the land didn't want SaltAir there in the first place. That the fires, the storms, the low water weren't accidents, they were warnings. That maybe the land had its own kind of memory and SaltAir was built on something that it shouldn't have disturbed. Either way, by the end of the 1950s, SaltAir was silent. It was abandoned. It had cracked wood, peeled paint, crumbled down buildings. And after SaltAir closed in the late 1950s, it didn't just sit empty. It was literally rotting. I want to mention here, have you guys ever seen like the salt flats? Like the pictures, like it's fucking angelic.
Yeah.
So like it makes sense to me that's like, to me, I'm like, that is
sacred, like very spiritual, like shit
sacred
right
land.
There. Yeah.
Like I see pictures there and I'm like, I want to go there.
I mean, even like there's so many places in Utah where I'm just like, even if everything, I don't know, there's a lot. I mean, obviously we talk about like portals and like stuff out west. Like there's a lot over there. Hello?
No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I just, that little segment there, like I really do truly feel like this is like
very sacred land.
Do not build here.
Like don't.
We've actually burnt you down twice.
And we just keep getting as far the fuck away from you as we possibly can.
We're literally inching away and you keep coming up.
Like you want to build a
tram?
Like
creeper.
Hell no. Like leave me the fuck alone. Quit following me.
So at this point in time, SaltAir is abandoned. But not only does it look kind of creepy, it's starting to feel kind of creepy.
It looks creepy.
It looks creepy and it's starting to feel creepy to a lot of people. So at this point in time, we have a lot of tourists coming in, but like not the tourists that were the usual tourists. These were your thrill-seeking, abandoned building tourists.
So a bunch of little teenage fucks.
This is like when the stories start to come out, the creepy stories. So some people claim to hear music, faint jazz that will just like go through the salty air, even though there was no speakers and there were no people there. Others say they saw shadows moving in the upper windows, even though the building was completely locked, abandoned, and crumbling. A few visitors swore that they saw wet footprints on the boardwalk leading up from the lake, even when the water was nowhere near the boardwalk.
Oh dear God.
SaltAir was now something else entirely. It was this haunted ruin. And it wasn't long before Hollywood was like, ayo, we're coming in.
Yeah.
In 1962, they filmed this low-budget horror movie called Carnival of Souls.
Jesus.
I had to look this up. I'm sure none of us have ever seen it. I've never seen it, but it's this like black and white movie about a woman who survives a car accident and she starts seeing these like ghostly figures around this like dilapidated lakeside pavilion.
SaltAir.
It's literally, it captured SaltAir perfectly, to be completely honest. If you want a little glimpse, then go watch the black and white movie.
Yeah.
But it was just a lot of silence, a lot of sadness. And to this day, people call Carnival of Souls this cult classic. And it helped give SaltAir a whole new reputation that it's no longer just abandoned, but it's possessed.
Yeah.
So things only got worse after that. In 1967, a fire broke out again. When it was abandoned, nobody was living there. Nobody was using the space. But somehow these flames ripped through what was left of the second SaltAir. Locals said it looked like the building was being erased by something that wanted it gone for good. And then in 1970, another fire hit what little remained. After that, there was hardly anything left. Just old, like, wooden boards sticking up out of the lake bed, like just looking fucking sad, honestly. Yeah. It had gone from this dream to these ruins, but still people kept coming. These teens looking for a thrill, ghost hunters, urban explorers. Some even tried to hold seances near the shore, claiming the spirits of old dancers and drowning victims were still stuck there. One story that gets told a lot is about a woman in white. Seen standing at the edge of the lake at dusk. She doesn't move. She doesn't speak. She just stares at the building like she's waiting for someone to come back. Another weird little thing about there, the ground is like oddly soft in places. So you'll be walking on this like dry, cracked salt, and then suddenly your foot will sink into like cold, wet sand. So it's like got like these like soft pockets almost. But some people say that that's actually the lake alive and that something underneath is like still shifting. That it has these moods or it doesn't like being ignored. A lot of legends and theories about the entire area is that the land itself is like protecting itself. SaltAir, no matter how many times it was rebuilt, it was always destined to fall apart. So by the 1970s, SaltAir was basically a memory at this point. Burned, abandoned, haunted. They called it cursed. And for a while, it stayed that way. In the early 1980s, someone had the wild idea to bring it back again. Not the same exact place, not on the original spot, but close by. About a mile from where the first and second SaltAir stood, construction began on a third version, which we now call SaltAir 3. This one was different. It was not funded by the church. Instead, the new owners converted this old airplane hangar into a massive event center. They painted it white. They gave it these like domes to match the original look, kind of like a nod to the past. In 1982, SaltAir 3 officially opened its doors, and the plan was for it to be a big concert venue and tourist stop. They had an arcade, a gift shop, a cafe. It was a big risk, but they thought that maybe people will come back. Maybe this place still has a little bit of magic left in it. However, in 1983, the Great Salt Lake started rising fast. Nobody expected it. The snowpack that year was huge. Temperatures rose way too quickly, and all of that melted snow water rushed down into the lake off the mountains. The shoreline moved in overnight, not away this time, but toward the building. First, it was a couple inches, and then it was feet, and then the lake swallowed the parking lot, and then soon swallowed the entire building in water.
Oh, shit.
SaltAir 3, barely a year old, was suddenly an island. And people tried to keep it going. They were building walkways to connect it to dry land. They were taking boats there, pumps, barriers, but the water literally would not stop. So again, they're like, okay, we'll move it this time. And they're like, whoosh.
Yeah, okay, cool. We're going to just actually flood this shit.
For years, SaltAir sat like this abandoned ship, completely unreachable by car. There was no shows, no concerts, no tourists. And it stayed like that into the late 1980s, looking something out of a post-apocalyptic film. The new owners were pretty fucking crushed because they spent millions trying to revive this clearly dead dream. Like, you got to give it up.
You guys just give it up.
But, like, the lake's going to win. And the lake won. Each time humans try to bring it back, nature, whether by fire or flood, tears it down again. And through all of it, the ghost stories never stopped. Visitors during the flooded years said the new building felt off. Cold spots, echoes, lights flickering. Some workers reported hearing footsteps on the catwalks at night when they were supposed to be alone. Others said the lake itself felt different around SaltAir, that birds wouldn't land on the water nearby and that fish avoided it.
Ooh.
The wind always seemed to blow toward the building, no matter which direction it came from. One night, a photographer was out there shooting these long exposure photos of the like half flooded SaltAir. So the water was like still rising at this point, but it wasn't an island. And in one frame, there was a white figure that showed up near the water's edge. It was barely visible, kind of like someone smudged the corner of the picture. And in the next frame, that smudge was gone. Maybe it was a camera glitch, or maybe it was who we were talking a little bit about earlier, the woman in white. So let's talk about her. They call her Sally. The woman in white, Sally SaltAir.
Yes.
People have been seeing her for decades. Always the same description, a woman dressed in a long, old-fashioned gown. She's pale, she's silent, she's standing alone near the edge of the Great Salt Lake, sometimes near the old pier. Sometimes she's walking slowly around the structure of SaltAir, always looking out over the water, like maybe she was waiting for someone who never came back. So who is she? There are tons of theories about little Miss Sally SaltAir. Some say she was a dancer at the original SaltAir in the early 1900s, a girl who fell in love with a man who promised to meet her at the resort, but he never showed. Some versions say that he drowned in the lake, others say that he skipped town. Either way, Sally came back every single night to wait for him until the day she died, and she's still waiting. Others claim that she's the spirit of someone who drowned near the pavilion. The lake, after all, does look very calm, like there is hardly any waves, but its high salt content can mess with your balance. So there were a lot of accidents. People did go under. And the weird part about the Salt Lake is that you think you would float, but a lot of the time, this specific lake, bodies never wash back up.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like actually a real thing, like legit.
So something's down there.
Something's grabbing them.
Yeah.
Some believe that Sally isn't a person at all, but something older, something tied to the land itself, a spirit of the lake, maybe even a protector. She appears when something bad is coming, storms, flood, fire, like a warning. Locals started calling her Sally in the 1970s, but no one really knows where the name came from. It just kind of showed up the way legends do. And over time, Sally became less of a ghost and more of like the soul of SaltAir. If you think about it, SaltAir has burned down, it's been flooded, it's been rebuilt again and again, and every time something comes along to tear it back down, but the only thing that remains is Sally. Sally stays. Some say SaltAir is Sally, that she is the personification of the land, the memory of everything that had happened there, joy, grief, fire, music, heartbreak, all of it wrapped up in one person who just never leaves no matter how much the water changes. beaches or the conditions around the area. When people visit SaltAir today, especially at night, they still talk about seeing her. Not fully, not clearly, but there's always a feeling that someone is watching. Like when the air shifts, if you stand too close to the water. Like if you listen closely, you can still hear the faint echo of a song from 1923 in the middle of the dance floor music room playing across the lake, the jazz songs before it all went wrong. And standing nearby, just a little out of reach, is always Sally.
I wonder if she's like a siren.
She could be.
Because that like makes sense.
I think she's like a spirit.
Yeah, like a spirit of the lake. Yeah.
The latest version of SaltAir, the concert venue built from that old airplane hangar, does still stand today. Bands do perform there. People do party there. Tourists will pull off the highway and take selfies of the salt flats. But even now, the ground out there still shifts. The lake rises and it falls. The parking lot is all cracked. New cracks happen every single day. Some nights, people say that fog rolls in from nowhere and will like settle really low at the ground, like against the building.
I hate that.
Workers will still report strange sounds in the walls, outside, walking near the water. There's power outages that don't make sense. Some guests have reported that the bathroom mirrors will fog up, but no one's been inside. Clearly, there's something strange about SaltAir because it should have disappeared by now.
Right.
It's literally been burned down, flooded, abandoned, 3 times rebuilt, and yet somehow it keeps coming back. And that is the curse of SaltAir.
I loved it, but all I can think is like, aren't airplane hangars like mostly made out of metal? Like, how the fuck is this thing not rusted to shit?
Oh, it's gotta be.
It's got to be.
Well, they did say they painted it like white wood, and they put like they rebuilt it to make it kind of like a nod to the past. And I'm assuming they had to have put it on stilts because if it was an island, now granted, when I think of the salt flats, I think of the people that are standing in it. So it's only like a foot of water. But they said that, I mean, it wiped out this whole fucking thing to the point where you couldn't walk into the hangar.
It looks like they just like lifted it, like tried to like
they probably
keep lifting
did,
it, but it's like not happening.
It's crazy that that's out there. I had no idea.
I had no idea either.
People taking pictures, no salt flats on my Instagram
all the time. I've never seen this before, ever. Oh, here's an aerial shot above of it.
Holy hell.
Yeah, that thing's huge.
You know what that looks like? It's a small.
It does. It does. It really does. Oh, I saw a girl on TikTok that was in
Paris.
And
they were portraying America.
Yeah.
Are we on the same For You page lately?
I don't know. That's weird. I love that. I wish there was like more about Sally. Like we could understand if she was seen prior to SaltAir and stuff, but like you can't look up that type of shit. You know?
Yeah. You know, like I wish we had some connections
to like call.
Yeah,
and ask
with like some local natives, like maybe they would know, like just generational
they
legends.
Had any legends about it
or at least were similar, like a woman in white,
a woman who like oversaw the lake or like was the personification or the spirit of it.
Because when I think of like the spirit of water, I do think of white.
Me too, and I always think of a woman. Yeah,
me too. And maybe that's
I know like Poseidon, but like
I don't think of that.
I think of like angry ocean as being a man.
Yeah. When I think of like lakes, I think of women.
Yeah. When I think of like calm, healing bodies of water, I think of a woman. When I think of the fucking crazy, what's it called up at the Arctic? Jacob's, what's that?
Drake's.
Yeah, I knew it was a man.
Jacob's house.
See, like that's not named after a woman for a reason.
Yeah,
it's some,
like the Mariana Trench though. Like that is a woman.
That is
like you're like I gotta sink the fuck down,
and I'll drag you down here, motherfucker. Like yeah,
that's good.
Healing and nurturing, and the way that it just like puts you into it, and you like hear the sounds of everything that's in it. Like I imagine that's probably what it's like being in the womb. Like just like hear, when you go underwater at your pool and like be in there by yourself and it's dead quiet, you can only hear like the skimmers or whatever, and then God forbid your siblings are in there with you.
I would love to go underwater.
Oh my god. Like
do you like what I'm saying? And it's like
yeah, I love doing that. Can you understand me? I just want to get some goggles and go play under the water in a pool.
Yeah,
that's where I'm like at right now. I would love to just go hang out in the bottom of a pool, at the bottom of the deep end. I'd like to weigh myself down. I'd like to strap weights on.
Sorry,
get down there, let my ears pop a little bit, and
do you need a hotline?
Have a tea party. That sounds nice.
That is fun to always like try to make yourself sit on the ground and you just sit
there.
Up.
Well, I'm actually really good at sinking in a pool, so that's good. I'm sure that's a good survival instinct I got going on there. Are you good at floating?
I can float on my back pretty well.
Yeah, I can float on my back for like 5 minutes, or not even 5 minutes, like 5 seconds, and it's over.
Oh, I do a lot better in the ocean.
Yeah,
but then it gets in my ears, then I get an ear infection.
When it gets in my ears, like, you know, when you're like trying to float and then water like splashes over your ears,
I lose balance.
I know. I'm like, I can't even sit here anymore. Yeah. I feel like something's just invaded my fucking brain.
Immediately, I lose balance.
Okay, Morgan, that was a really good case. My turn. The case I have for you guys today, I've actually been putting off for about a year because I never felt like I had all of the answers to the questions that I knew you guys would ask and that I would like answers to. So this is crazy. 2 days ago, or no, Monday, it's like early in the morning, and I'm trying to figure out what case I want to cover. So I was going through like all of my half done notes, and then I was looking at all the notes that I had made like last week of like podcast episodes I had listened to. But anyways, on my TikTok, I have like, you know how you can favorite things and put them into files. Yeah. I have one of those where I like do like potential cases that I want to cover. So I'm sitting on TikTok doing that. And the only way I get TikTok notifications is if I'm in the app, because I have all notifications off like outside of the app. And I'm like getting kind of frustrated because I'm like, I know I have more than this like flagged that I want to cover. About that time, Taylar B, one of our listeners, tags me on both my like personal TikTok and my like true crime.
Did she tag me too?
I think so.
I almost covered one of these.
The disappearances?
Yes.
So
I was looking into one of them. It was a female. Is that who you have?
I have one of the girls. I don't think you probably have the one that I have. It's not the one where they came back.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I didn't do like the Stephen, because Stephen Kubacki was on there and I was like, we haven't had one like that. But granted, we did have that one about the guy that was
Is this the one in Hawaii or no?
No.
Okay. That's the one I was looking at.
She tags me in this. She tags us in this. And I'm like going through and this case pops up. And I was like, oh my God, I have been putting this off for a year. And for some reason, I guess like the first time I just paid attention to like the case, like overall, like the Cliff Notes version of it. And I've never looked at the dates. And this case is a date that has been standing out to me a lot recently, and that is where we're going to start this case. It's Tuesday, June 27th, 1995, 3 years before I was born to the date. And it's about 4:10 a.m. when CBS affiliate Mason City, Iowa station KIMT's producer Amy realizes that their 6 a.m. morning news anchor, 27-year-old Jodi Huisentruit, hadn't shown up for work at her regular call time, 3 a.m. Amy picked up the station phone and called Jodi's apartment, and Jodi answered. Jodi was groggy, tired, and now very, very worried and stressed out that she's late for work, explaining that she had just accidentally overslept and she'd come right in. Now, this was not uncommon for Amy or Jodi, actually. It had only happened a few other times, and it happens to literally every single person that I know that does like morning news, because you have to be up literally like at 3 a.m, be at work. Like, that's crazy. Which is why Amy and Jodi had this little deal that if the other one wasn't at the station by 4 a.m., they would call them and wake them up. So they would like cover for each other essentially. And this had happened a few times for the both of them, but you know, not everyday type of thing, you know? Jodi told Amy that she was going to throw on some clothes. She would do her hair and her makeup at the news station while they prepped, and she would be there in like 10 minutes. Because Jodi, in addition to anchoring, also helped Amy produce the show every morning. Now, her being there in 10 minutes actually made sense, because she's like, I'm gonna be there in 10, and hung up. That actually makes sense. It's not like an empty promise. Like if I say I'm going to be there in 10 minutes.
No, we know that.
Yeah, I'll never be there in 10 minutes, just so we're clear. Jodi lived 5 minutes away from KIMT station at the Key Apartments in Mason City, where she had lived alone since moving to the area from Minnesota in the early fall of 1994. So like almost 10 months prior. Meaning she should have been at work by 4:30 a.m. at the very latest. But she wasn't. So Amy called her for a second time. This time she got the answering machine. Hoping that this meant that Jodi was on her way, Amy just kind of left like a frantic but silly kind of message for her on the machine saying, Jodi, like, where are ya? I need you, girl. Get here soon. I cannot do this by myself. I'm gonna freak out. And then she hung up to continue doing her like SaltAir duties for like the production. The next time that she looked up at the clock, she realizes that Jodi is not at the studio still, and it's 5 a.m. T-minus 1 hour before Jodi's morning show called Daybreak, that she was the co-host, like main anchor on, segment was set to go live. Now, fully freaking out that Jodi might have fallen back asleep, Amy calls Jodi for a third time. And once again, she gets the answering machine, leaving another, but this time way more frantic, less fun message saying, Jodi, come on, wake up. I need you, Jodi, wake up. After this, Amy has no choice but to just focus on her work, or else the show was going to go live with no graphics, no teleprompter, no organization of stories, nothing. Like, she had to literally just be like, okay, I'm just going to have to act like Jodi's not coming. And she also, in the meantime, was having to get herself ready because she was Jodi's fill-in. Like, if Jodi didn't show up, she was going to have to go and anchor in place of Jodi. And she did. She had to fill in for her. As soon as Daybreak wrapped at 7 a.m., Amy discussed the situation with Jodi with the rest of the KIMT team, who then decided that they needed to request a welfare check at her apartment because Jodi had never, ever missed a day prior to this. She loved her job. She was a hard and dedicated worker and was incredibly loyal and reliable. Mason City Police arrived at Jodi's key apartment building at just after 7 a.m. on the lookout for her new red 2-door Mazda Miata that Amy had told them about. And immediately they spotted it upon pulling in. Now, guys, my description of the layout of these apartments is like going to suck verbally. So I have drawn you a diagram that I'm about to hand to Morgan. And I also have a picture that I'm going to text to Morgan. So that way you guys can see what I'm talking about, because it is kind of like all over the place. Let me get up and get you the diagram, Morgan. So you guys can check that out on Instagram. And I think it should be in the YouTube video, but if it's not, I apologize, guys. I apologize. We just had an update with our editing software and I'm still trying to get used to it. Jodi lived in building C in a second floor apartment, which was the top floor. There was only 2 stories that overlooked the parking lot on the left side of the building if you're looking from like the satellite view that I'm showing you. In order for her to get out of her apartment and into the parking lot, she would have to walk out of her apartment door, walk to the right down her hallway, interior hallway, then down interior stairs, and then out the glass front door, which is in the upper left-hand corner of the picture that I sent you that's not a drawing, which came out on the left side of the building, as you can see on the hand-drawn diagram and where the red circle is on the picture from the satellite image. Jodi's car was parked just to the right, facing away from her building's front door at an angle. So like those angled parking spots, and visible to police from the moment they pulled in. So that's where they went first. And what they saw immediately alarmed them, calling for a supervisor and requesting to shut down the entire area as a crime scene, because scattered on the ground on the driver's side and in front of the car were several of Jodi's personal belongings. Her car door key was lying on the ground and bent at nearly a 90-degree angle. Her driver's side mirror was bent backwards. Her blue hair dryer was laying on the ground. Her several work papers were just like strewn about. There was an earring, and Jodi's favorite red high heels were in the gravel, or quote silt, in front of her car between the like 2 rows of parking spots. So you know how at some places when they're really close, like where those little things that stop you, you know what I'm talking about, that you pull up to in a parking spot, it's kind of like gravel, but it's mainly just like a bunch of dirt and shit that's just like been over there. So her red high heels are like laying in that. But most alarmingly is that from her red heels in that silt and gravel, you can see drag marks.
Oh my God.
The responding officers began shutting down the scene as investigators made their way up to Jodi's apartment. And inside, it told them all that they needed to know. From what the scene was telling them, they believed that Jodi had immediately gotten up and quickly pulled up her blankets to the top of her bed to like semi-make it without like doing all the hubbub of like actually making your bed. She threw on her work clothes, shoes, and was putting on her earrings. She grabbed her makeup bag, her hair tools, purse, and a few files for work. She had had her hands full as she was exiting the apartment, locking the door behind her. She walked down the hallway, down the interior stairs, and outside of the building when it was still dark outside at approximately 4:15/4:20 a.m. at the latest, and the sun didn't rise until 5:35 a.m. that morning. But the parking lot was but dimly lit because of all the building lights and like street lights that were around it. Then she walked up to her driver's side of her car, put her key in the door to unlock it, and then at that point, before she could even turn it, she was approached by someone. A struggle ensues, bending her key as she probably was trying to rip it out to use it as like a means to protect herself, but she is shoved against her car, bending the mirror backwards. She continues to fight her abductor as she is being drugged to the front of her car and in between the two aisles of the parking rows into whatever vehicle her attacker was driving. However, they also found a few things that indicated that though she lived alone, she had not been alone the night before, or at least in some recent time, because they found 2 used wine glasses sitting on the kitchen counter beside the sink, a few empty beer cans just sitting in the sink, and then the toilet seat in the bathroom was left up, which uncommon for a single. Yeah. That's whenever
unless she was vomiting,
unless she was brushing her hair out and like just throwing it in there. But like even then, most of the time I'm not even gonna pick it up.
Same.
Like, sorry.
I can't vomit with the lid up because I live with a boy and it's disgusting under there.
Yeah, and I can't look, or I'll start cleaning while I'm vomiting. Yeah.
So I have to leave this shit down. Not gonna
leave that shit down. Yeah. As for forensic evidence found on both the inside and outside of the car, investigators were able to identify and collect a partial large palm print, some hairs, and some fibers, and allegedly DNA. But like they are really tight to chest about a lot of shit in this case. So like I think we only have the tip of the iceberg when it comes down to it. Immediately following the search of the apartment, police began going door to door interviewing all neighbors, and searches were organized with police and canine units to search the surrounding areas. But the problem is the amount of key locations that they had to look into with only just like a 1 mile radius from her apartment. This included a campground in the middle of summer, packed, dense forested areas, the river that sat directly behind Jodi's apartment building C, plus a large park that was on the other side of the river that had multiple like walking trails and like other little parts in it that were kind of hidden. Unfortunately, they did not find anything that got them any closer to finding Jodi, but their next lead would actually drive right up to them. First though, let's start with the interviews from the neighbors. According to several residents of the key apartments, just before 4:30 a.m., many of them were either woken up by or heard while preparing their coffee a woman screaming, with others saying that they distinctly could make out that she was screaming, quote, "Leave me alone." But no one reported this because it wasn't uncommon, especially in the summer, to hear loud yells, cheers, and screaming, etc. from that campground that was just on the other side of the trees. Like it was always rowdy as fuck over there. Damn. So when the screams stopped, not long after they started, within a few minutes, everyone just went on about their mornings.
Think about it again.
Yep.
Damn. That's fucking sad.
So sad. Now, years later, the across the hall neighbor from Jodi named Joan, which I know like that's 2 J names, so that's kind of rough, but Jodi is our girl and Joan is an across the hallway neighbor, would reach out to find Jodi, which is like a journalist-led advocacy group that like works on Jodi's case. And it's like really, really cool. And I'll get more into it later. But anyways,
sorry, I'm door dashing tampons.
It's okay. Right now. So Joan reaches out to the group Find Jodi, and they have like their own website and an entire podcast that like details in detail that like I can't even begin to step into on here. So I 100%, if you're interested in this case, recommend that you go listen to it. But either way, Joan reaches out to them and she tells the Find Jodi team that the night before Jodi's abduction, so Monday, June 26, 1995, sometime between 8 p.m. and 8:30 p.m., she heard, quote, loud male footsteps, end quote, pounding up the the stairs and down the hallway towards her door, followed by a man banging and screaming at Jodi's door. According to Joan, this man was saying, "Open up the door, Jodi. I know you're in there. Open up the door." And this went on for 3 to 4 minutes before she heard the man storm off back down the stairs. But the problem with Joan's story is that, like, this is not at all what she told police when she was interviewed initially, right after Jodi went missing.
Brought that part?
Yeah, like never brought it up. Still though, could help us get some like insight into the 24 hours prior to Jodi's disappearance. As the news of Jodi's abduction and disappearance made headlines, and it did immediately, because like this is KIMT's own, like they control what the fuck they're talking about on their news station. This is their girl. Like they are taking her story far and wide, and then it's just being picked up, boom, 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 because everyone loved her, which I'm about to get to. And as it's just like, you know, taking over the headlines of all news outlets in the area, several tips and leads start flooding in within hours after her abduction and disappearance. But one in particular was actually really helpful for investigators. It was from a local man named Randy, who was on his regular morning commute to work, passing by the Key Apartments at 4 a.m. on the morning of June 27th, or at around 4 a.m. Now, this is something that he did every day. This was his everyday route. So he's just like peeking around. Everything looks the same, but one thing catches his eye as he's passing by the Key Apartments. There was this white van, one that he would describe to be a rape van, parked in the Key Apartments parking lot, running with the like parking lights on, just kind of like sitting there and idling. And he thought about this as being really weird because he was like, I've never ever seen that van. I pass by these every day, multiple times a day. Like, I've never seen that van sitting there. What the fuck? And he was like, it was even weirder that it was just on. Yeah. And it was the only one that was on during there. And he said, you know, you see cars on, you know, in the winter when they need to heat up before people can come out. But in the summer, like, no.
Yeah, you're wasting gas.
You're just wasting gas.
Roll the window down.
Right. He didn't think much of it when he initially saw it. He just was like, oh, that's weird. But then when he learned about Jodi, he immediately called it in. And this would be a key piece of evidence for certain theories that we will eventually get to. Now let's go back to that lead that literally drove straight up to investigators while on the scene. At this point, the searches were happening, and it's mid-morning on June 27th, just hours after she has been abducted, with the whole town quickly learning about Jodi's disappearance. When this big red truck pulls up into the parking lot of the Key Apartments with 2 men inside. The passenger immediately gets out of the car and walks directly up to the officers saying, quote, "I was the last person to see Jodi Huisentruit alive." Okay.
Sorry, where?
How do you know? Like, how do you know?
There's a lot of witnesses in this case. It's weird.
It's weird.
A lot of people are.
Well, I guess they like didn't have like cell phones like we have cell phones now. So like you just.
That's true.
Looking around.
Yeah.
Thinking,
paying attention to your surroundings.
Right. And this man was 49-year-old John Van Cise, and he was a friend of Jodi's. John told officers that the night before, so Monday night, June 26th, Jodi had stopped by his house to watch this video that he had made from her surprise 27th birthday that he had thrown her like a few weeks before. And her birthday's on June 5th at Solly's Bar at Clear Lake. And he said that it was a little after 8 p.m. that she got there. They watched the full video, which was 15 minutes long. They chatted for a few minutes before Jodi had to leave because she had an early morning. So she left at around 8:30-ish to head back home. Police wrote all of this down, took his name and his contact information, and told him that detectives would be in contact with him soon. But something was just off about that entire thing, about John. Even though he was like very helpful, very concerned, and like very willing to work with them, something about it wasn't right, which investigators would have proof of eventually. But before they could do that though, they needed to figure out Jodi's last movements and who she was, what she did, what she liked. So let's learn about who Jodi was. Jodi Sue Huisentruit was born on June 5th, 1968 in Long Prairie, Minnesota, as the youngest daughter belonging to Maurice and Jane Huisentruit. She had 2 older sisters, Joanne, who was 18 when she was born, and Jill, who was 5 when she was born. So they were like instantly obsessed with her. She was their baby doll, like so in love with her.
Aww.
Jodi was an absolute vision. She was gorgeous, funny, smart, kind, driven, spunky, quote, a firecracker, vibrant, and athletic. In high school, she excelled in golf, winning the state Class A tournament with her team in 1985 and 1986, which was her senior year. And it was also the same year that she was voted class clown for her school. After graduation, it was no question what Jodi wanted to do with her life, as she had known from a very young age that she wanted to work in broadcast journalism, with her idol at the time being the famous Connie Chung, who was and still is at that time and still today a very, very prominent young, incredible female journalist. So she enrolled at St. Cloud's State University studying mass communications and speech communications, graduating with her bachelor's degree in 1990. First, Jodi interned in Cedar Rapids, Iowa at their CBS News affiliate station KGAN for the summer before heading to Alexandria, Minnesota, where she worked as a reporter at the ABC affiliate KSAX until she got the call that she had been waiting on in 1994, an offer to be the morning show daybreak host at the CBS affiliate KIMT in Mason City, Iowa. She jumped at the chance to continue to grow her career and started in the fall of 1994. Almost instantly, the small town of Mason City fell in love and was obsessed with Jodi. She became a household name and a local celebrity, which came with its own issues back then and even still today. It is incredibly common for people, specifically men, to become obsessed with, begin stalking, and form parasocial feelings and relationships with news anchors, specifically female news anchors. And Jodi had been dealing with issues like this since moving to Mason City. So much so that she actually was taking self-defense classes to protect herself after an incident that had happened not long after she moved to the Mason City area. So in October of 1994, 9 months prior to her disappearance, Jodi was out on a run when she was being followed by a, quote, small, newer white pickup truck. The incident was so scary that she actually called and reported it to police when she got home. And on top of that, she had been receiving several quote unquote nasty calls recently that had her looking to actually change her phone number, which was even more so common back then than it is today, because literally her address and phone number were in the public phone book. Phone books were crazy.
Yeah, I can't believe that was a thing.
No, that's like...
Do you remember having to get the yellow pages out to call your friends in elementary school?
Popping it open and... Government.
Mom, do you think the dad's last name or first name is this or this?
Do you think it's an L or an R? Like, oh my God, it was so crazy back then.
That was crazy.
That was a crazy time. Okay. Making her and her family and friends wonder if she might have had a stalker, like if those two incidents were connected, like the following and the calls that are going on. But this just felt off to investigators.
Could you opt out of the phone book?
I don't know.
Or is it like a census situation? Like your name, like address, like and phone number were in there.
Let's ask.
Like surely people could opt out.
Could you opt out
of yellow pages?
Of yellow pages in the 90s. It was not as straightforward as it is today. Well, there was an option to not receive a printed directory. Wait, like, no, that's not what we're asking.
Oh, that's probably what they called it.
No, like they're saying like you cannot get yellow pages delivered to your house. Like I want to know if my phone number had to fucking be in it.
Okay, based on the search results, it's clear that opting out of phone books in the 90s was an option, but it wasn't the default, and it often came with a cost.
Oh, a cost to not let me be in it?
You had to pay to be unlisted. To be excluded from the directory, have an unlisted number, customers typically had to pay an extra fee. Might seem counterintuitive, as one might expect to pay to be included rather than excluded. You had to pay to not be in it. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
So basically, if you're a fucking peasant, you were in the phone book.
Yeah, like
is what I hear.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, so this like stalker potential connection and like the calls felt really off to investigators because they really didn't feel like this was the doing of a stalker per se, like this exact situation, but instead maybe someone that knew Jodi really well because of the fact that it was so far away from her normal routine. Like what are the chances that the stalker is going to sit there an extra hour and a half from the time that they thought, like, wouldn't they think that they just missed her or she wasn't going into work that day, like, and just blow it off and do it another day? And then also, like, it's such at a weird time when people are waking up and you're in a really public area with like a bunch of people around. 4:30 time is like when people, like early shift workers, start going, like the roads start opening at around, you know, that time. So that's really odd. And then also they were like, and why would they do it when she was going into work? Like, obviously it's going to be very apparent that that something's wrong and that police will be called sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
You know, like if you were going to do it and you were a stalker and you knew her entire routine, wouldn't you do it on a Friday after work?
Right. So she wouldn't be expected anywhere.
Right. Exactly. So really the question is why did it have to be that day? Why did it have to be Tuesday? Again, a random day. Tuesday, June 27th. Why that very morning? And to better understand this, investigators had to map out Jodi's last 24 hours. After anchoring the morning news on the morning of Monday, June 26th, and completing her other duties for the day, she left the news station and she headed to the Mason City Country Club at around noon, where she represented KIMT. I'm sorry, not around noon, prior to noon, probably at 8 in the morning, where she represented KIMT in a golf outing / tournament for the Mason City Chamber. Following this golf outing, which don't forget, she was like a golf queen, she went home, showered, and got dressed, returning to the country club for the chamber dinner with her KIMT team that had been at the tournament with her that day. Not long after finishing up with dinner, Jodi told her friends and coworkers that she had to leave because she had an early morning, so she said her final goodbyes walking out the door to her car at 8 p.m., according to several witnesses. And investigators know that she was back at her apartment by 8:24 p.m. because she made a long-distance phone call to her best friend Kelly at the time. However, Kelly was not home, so Kelly's husband answered the phone, and Jodi and the husband sat on the phone for a few minutes and just like caught up. The husband said that she was totally fine. She was happy. And she was like, well, I was just calling to catch her up on my weekend. I went water skiing. I had the best time. Anyways, just like have her tell them. And they just like chatted about what's going on for probably like 5 minutes. Then got off the phone. Probably not even 5. Like I don't foresee a man staying on the phone for 5 minutes. Probably 3. But like Jodi was doing a lot of talking, was like excited to talk. Which we later learned that she had wrote really fondly about her weekend water skiing in her journal when she had gotten home on the evening of Sunday, June 25th. And guess who she had gone water skiing with? John Van Cise, the guy who pulled up in the red truck, because it was his boat that they went out on. It
Not
was
the phone guy.
The phone. That's
who was she on the phone with?
Kelly's husband, her best friend's husband that lives out of state. So who she had gone on this like water skiing trip with was John, the 49-year-old man that pulled up in the parking lot and said I was the last person to see Jodi alive.
From her birthday party.
At the birthday party, we watched a video and all the things. Well, it was his boat, his son's lake or river house that they went to, and then they bar hopped together. And can you guess what the name of his boat was? The Jodi. And that's the thing about John's story that didn't really make sense, because if Jodi was on the phone with Kelly's husband at 8:24 p.m. and left, by several witnesses' accounts, the country club at 8 p.m., there is no way that she could have been at his house when he said. Granted, she could have gone back to his house after she got off the phone with Kelly's husband, which is maybe why Jodi never answered the door when that man, allegedly, according to Joan, was banging and screaming on it in the hallway at 8:30. But that wouldn't make any sense considering that John's house was just 4 miles away from the country club, but a 10-minute drive from her house.
Wait, how far from the country club?
5 minutes from the country club, 10 minutes to her house.
Okay.
Yeah. And she would have had to like pass by John's house on her way home. But that video was 15 minutes long. So even if she got there at 8:04 and she watched the video for 15 minutes, so then that's going to be 8:20. She can't make it home in 4 minutes.
Right.
It takes her like 10 minutes to get back home. So
order timeline of events is this. She leaves the country club at 8 o'clock. Allegedly, she goes to John's.
Allegedly.
5 minutes away, 8:05. She watches the video, 15-minute long video. Probably not
8:25.
8:20.
Yeah.
5. Probably you're chatting.
Yeah.
Sit down.
And then they talked for, he said that we talked to her a little bit before she left.
And then was back at her house by 8:30.
8:24.
8:24 and was on the phone with Kelly's husband when?
At 8:24.
At 8:24.
That's why we know that she's home. So like that makes no sense.
Right.
And I don't think that she would get home, call her best friend, not be able to talk to her best friend, talk to her husband, and then like what? Get back in her car, drive back to John's.
Right.
And go hang out
and
there.
And because from her, I mean, John could live on the other way, so he could actually be 15 minutes away.
Right. Like, depending on what route she's going to take. So it just really, like, when police saw that 8:24 p.m. call, they were like,
this doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make sense about John's story, and maybe that's why we got those weird vibes about him. And that was enough for police to start looking into John as their very first and main person of interest. Now we're switching to handwritten notes.
Uh-oh.
So how the two of them met was because one thing that Jodi loved to do was go to like a rundown bar and like bar hop all of those in town and like get a few drinks, chat with the locals, and hang out. One of her favorite places was called the Other Place Sports Bar. And there were two men that were very, very much regulars at this location along with Jodi. So they kind of became like a little trio that would hang out with each other when they saw each other, but it wasn't like they were being best friends out until John eventually does. Either way, these two men's names were Billy Pruin and then John Van Sice / the guy that said that that threw the birthday party, made the video, said that she was over there, also said that I was the last person to see Jodi alive, and then
creepily
went water skiing with his boat that's called the Jodi. I mean, okay, he is a 49-year-old seed corn salesman from Newton, Iowa, who had just recently moved to the Mason City area and had spent his first month in the same apartment building as Jodi. And he was like very much a show off, look at me type of guy. Now, the other guy in this trio is Billy Pruin, and he actually was found dead, shot to death 4 months before in April of 1994, but it was determined to actually be an accident. He was a farmer, and his daughters go on like as many podcasts and like shows as they can, and they're like, our dad's death was an accidental death. It has nothing to do with Jodi. Basically, he was like running inside to get something and like slipped. He was like, there was like mud throughout. Okay, so like he slipped and his gun fired off in his stomach. Damn. And it killed him.
That's fucking sad.
Really fucking sad. So they don't like his name being associated with it at all because people are like, they're connected. She was looking into his death and like doing investigative reporting. And then also, let me just go ahead and squash this while we're here. She was not an investigative reporter. She was simply, all she wanted to be was a TV personality and an anchor. She did not want to be out there like that case that we covered of that girl on Patreon a few weeks ago with the burnt down house cottage thing. She was not like that. So anyways, they bring him up in a lot of this, but everyone says that like Billy was friendly with John and Jodi, but John and Jodi were the main like besties in this group. So we don't have like, they don't want their dad Billy's name to be associated with Jodi's case at all, and they want to make it pretty clear that like Billy was just like a nice guy, and so he was like friends with everyone.
Just the local bar
yeah, just
guy,
like at the local bar, you know. Aww. He was like divorced, he was a single dad of 2 daughters, like he was just a good old farmer, just out there doing his thing. Anyway, so like John and Jodi were the closest of the two. And their relationship is really interesting because we know what Jodi thought of their relationship. And John says that he thought of it one way, whereas like his actions and his comments
and
the boat name, like really, really brings that into question. And then he starts giving oddly conflicting and just wrong statements to the police, saying that she had a boyfriend and the boyfriend got her the car that she was driving and that it wasn't even hers and she didn't like it. She was going to return it. And just like a lot of things.
Can you return a car?
I don't know. I don't know. Which is where we're going to get into it next week in part 2, because though I really tried my best to avoid a part 2 in this case, it's taken me a year to even bring it to you guys. It's going to take me 2 parts to get it out.
Yeah, period.
Sorry. Like I have to, I've got to. And there's just like a lot of things in recent years that have come out where it's like people have been.
You want to go into detail with.
Yeah. And like there's stuff that like I just want to set the record straight on, because like there's people have been beating a dead bush with a lot of this shit in here. Like there's stuff that's been ruled out, people that have been ruled out, and police are like, will you please fucking drop it? And even the people are like, will you please fucking drop it? But we're going to get into that later because the next part 2, just so we're clear, I gave you all the foundation. You guys need to get familiar with these names, lock them in.
That's what's got me all fucked up.
I mean, it's hard.
John,
Jody,
Jimbo,
Billy, Amy, like so
Jilly Joe.
many names.
Yeah.
Joan.
I was like kind of taken aback when you said corn salesperson. I was like, oh, we're in Iowa.
We are in Iowa.
And that tracks.
Seed
I was like,
corn salesman.
What else is there to do besides corn?
Nothing.
It's corn.
No, it's corn. I
love corn. Long it's got the juice.
Got the juice.
Can't imagine a more beautiful thing.
Oh, wow. I haven't heard that in a long time.
I heard it yesterday. It's in my head. But yeah, no, that caught me off guard too.
Yeah.
The names I need a play-by-play.
I know.
I need an Abby Lee dance company pyramid.
Yeah, of like people. I need to just like make you guys like well, obviously you get
Guess who cards.
Yeah. So that way you know who I'm talking about and what I'm talking about, because it's even, that's why another reason that's been really hard to like research this, because there's so many
there's a lot of people in this
involved in it, and it's so like the case itself, there's not a lot out there because everything's held close to chest. So the majority of the shit is just theories.
And I feel like in most cases you have your victim, you have an intermediate family, usually only like a select few though, like a sister or mom, or then you have the detective, and then you have like some oddballs that end up usually doing it. However, in this case, we have like 19,000.
We've already got 13 people that we've even like listed off and like given you a full name to. We had Randy, and
I don't even know what you said about Randy.
So he was the guy who saw the white van.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yeah, that was that guy. So next week, know all of that, and I'm not gonna go in chronological. I really tried to go chronological this time for you guys. Next week when we do part 2, I think it's gonna have to be just like section by section, so that way we're not jumping back and forth from all these different people, because I caught myself in the middle of that not even knowing what I was talking about for a second, like having to you guys will have no idea.
She did have more notes written down. She was like, wait, the fucking I gotta go in more detail.
I was like, I cannot,
we're ending it,
even begin to do that right now. Okay, well, we will talk to you guys on Tuesday for TBB, and then next Thursday for 250 part 2 of Jodi Huisentruit and Morgan, whatever she wants to cover,
and whatever Morgie wants.
Love you guys. Talk to you later. Have a great rest of your week. Happy July.
I can't believe it. It's scary.
That's terrifying. All right, love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.